Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender. I am very excited to talk about one of my favorite films I saw at the Toronto Film Festival a few days ago, and that's We Live in Time, starring Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. Now, going into the festival, I had seen the trailer for this movie. I tried to avoid as many trailers as I could for anything I was going to see at TIFF, but this one popped up on the timeline, and I am a huge Andrew Garfield fan. I've had a crush on him since I saw the trailer for Lions for Lambs back in 2007, and watching his career unfold the last, 15 to 17 years has been really exciting. So I wanted to see what this movie was all about, and I came away from the trailer feeling pretty good, but not great. The whole film looked a bit familiar, like we'd seen it before, and I thought, this one might be a miss, but I'm still gonna see it at TIFF, of course. And I am delighted to tell you this is a great film. Yes, it is familiar in some ways. It's not the most original movie I saw during my week at TIFF, but it's very good, beautifully crafted, very well acted. I was never bored. I really got swept up in this romance, in this relationship between two people that definitely has its ups and downs. And something that kind of thrilled me about We Live in Time, something I didn't know about it going in, is that this is not a linear timeline. This is something I talked to a few people who saw the movie at TIFF. They didn't necessarily love how the movie jumps around in time, sometimes scene to scene. Like, you have to basically look at Florence Pugh's hair in a lot of moments to figure out, okay, is this early in their relationship? Is this later on? Like, this movie jumps around in time a lot. I feel like the title does kind of give that away. I should have paid more attention. And I felt like this decision in the editing, and probably the screenplay too, I would imagine, makes the movie a little bit more original than if it had told the story in a basic linear fashion. I found that element to this storytelling excited me all the way through. So on a basic level, We Live in Time is a love story that spans many, many years in the lives of Tobias, played by Andrew Garfield, and Almut, played by Florence Pugh. They have one of those classic movie meet cutes. I won't tell you how it happens, but I was laughing in the theater. I was like, okay, that's one way to meet the love of your life. And I don't want to give away a bunch of spoilers, like what happens in the second half, even though you do have an inkling of where this movie's going if you watch the trailer. But Tobias has been unlucky in love. He's about to get divorced. He has had a very bad relationship with this woman, and he's not necessarily looking to get into another relationship, but he meets Almut, who is an up-and-coming chef, like a very, very talented chef, who wants this to be her life's work. And so at first, it's hard for her to navigate this new relationship with Tobias, and with her drive, her passion for being a chef. That's kind of what she's all about for a lot of this movie. And I mean, I need to say a little bit about what happens to Almut. She gets a cancer diagnosis. That's like a big part of the movie. You learn this very early on. This is not like a second act, third act twist or anything. You know pretty early in the film that she's very sick, and how that illness affects her relationship with Tobias, how it affects her work, being a chef, like her life's goal and dream. And Florence Pugh, oh my God, is this just an amazing actress? She continues to impress me in movie after movie. Doesn't matter the genre, doesn't matter if it's like Dune Part 2 or Don't Worry Darling, a movie I had a lot of problems with, but I didn't have a problem with her performance. And then going back to Midsommar and Little Women, which got her an Oscar nomination, I don't think she can get an Oscar nomination for We Live in Time. This isn't really going to be an Oscar movie, even though I think it should be, like, I really, really loved it, that I do think is better than many films that are going to get into Best Picture, maybe Best Director, the acting categories. We Live in Time might just slip through the cracks because enough critics, enough awards voters might look at this film as a sentimental, like, romance or something. I think We Live in Time is much more than that. This movie made me cry on 2 separate occasions. Any film that makes me cry is doing something right. And it's not just like, oh, the music and the story is sad. Like, the writing in this movie is at a very high level, and the performances are outstanding. Florence Pugh really commits to this character. We get to see her in so many different emotional states throughout this movie. Sometimes she is thrilled and happy and having the time of her life. Other times she's at a very dark and sad place. She gets to show so many layers with this character of Almut. And I especially really loved that she continued to go after her passion even in the face of death and illness. It is so inspirational. I loved Florence Pugh in this movie, and Andrew Garfield is at her level. He also gives a fantastic performance. That's probably not going to get in at the Oscars. Maybe Golden Globes. Like, maybe Golden Globes will throw a couple acting nominations at this movie. I will be sad, honestly, if all throughout the next award season, We Live in Time is just completely ignored, as if the movie doesn't exist. That will be sad to me. I think this movie's too good, too well acted to be completely ignored. So any nominations this film gets, especially for Pugh and or Garfield, will delight me. Andrew Garfield is so charming. He gets to show a lot of emotion in this movie, as you might expect. He's very funny at times. He is so handsome in this movie. Oh my God, wow. And it's just a fascinating, complex character. I really enjoyed watching him grow as a character in this movie. He also gets to show a lot of shades. There is this one scene in a gas station bathroom that I won't give away, but like, his acting in that scene, it was so funny, so real and authentic. I really, really enjoyed him in this. It's definitely my favorite performance of his since Tick, Tick, Boom, which got him the Oscar nomination for Best Actor. And what really is, I would say, the big takeaway of We Live in Time is how much chemistry Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield have on the screen. Like, holy cow. I was watching this film like, man, whoever thought to put them in a movie like this together, a romance film, a movie where they share a lot of scenes together. Some funny, some sad, dramatic, like a mix of different tones all throughout. Like, they are just so wonderful to watch on screen together. From the very first scene, their chemistry is so palpable. It explodes off the screen, and I hope they do another 5 films together. This film was directed by John Crowley, who made Brooklyn in 2015, one of my favorite films of that year. That movie got into the Oscars, like Saoirse Ronan got into Best Actress and things. And We Live in Time is not quite at that level. I feel like the period detail in Brooklyn really made that film extremely special in its storytelling. We Live in Time is more modern, and because the story of We Live in Time is pretty familiar, it's why I can't quite go to a 9 out of 10, although I was close. Like, when I was crying near the end of this movie, I was like, this could be a 9 out of 10, but I'm not quite going that far because in the days since having watched We Live in Time, I have to be honest. Overall, as a story, it has not been as memorable as some other films I saw at TIFF. Like, in the moment, I was really loving it, loving that non-linear storytelling, loving those performances. It has a very satisfying ending. It's emotional, but like a week out of having seen it, some of the more specific details of the movie are kind of gone. I only remember a couple of like the really great memorable scenes. Because this kind of story has been told before in many different kinds of iterations, I just can't say it's necessarily one of the top 10 best films of 2024, but if it doesn't make my top 10, it's definitely going to be in my second 10. I very much believe this is a film worth seeing, especially if you are a fan of either actor or of both actors. I do think you're going to very much enjoy this the way I did. I don't have a lot really negative to say about We Live in Time, outside of the story being kind of like something we've seen before. But what this movie is trying to do, it totally succeeds. Like the level of craft and the acting and the storytelling, this movie works. Like it totally works. I was so happy walking out of the theater because I did go in with some trepidation. I was like, this could be just like okay. It had gotten good, not like rave reviews from the first screening of the film that had happened, I think the night before or 2 nights before I saw it. But I didn't have to worry at all. I slipped into this narrative very quickly and enjoyed every minute. Again, it's funny, it's sad, it's inspirational. It might make you cry the way it did me. And Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh make magic together on screen. I loved them together in this film, and even though at this moment, I don't think We Live in Time is going to get any Oscar nominations, like you could say maybe Pugh or Garfield could slip into actress or actor. You could say maybe it gets into screenplay, maybe one tech category. But I don't know, this is an original screenplay. That category is stacked. I don't see that happening. I guess you could say film editing is on the table because of the non-linear storytelling. I feel like that might be in contention, but if that's the only category this movie stands a shot at the Oscars, I could see it missing too. So sadly, even though I did love this, even though I really, really enjoyed We Live in Time, at this moment, I don't think it gets any Oscar nominations, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't see it. When this movie opens in theaters, go check it out. It is a wonderful piece of storytelling with 2 spectacular performances by Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield. I think you're going to enjoy this one. I give We Live in Time an 8 out of 10. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and I will be back with more reviews from the Toronto Film Festival. I will see you next time at the Awards Contender.